What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another video. Today's video is gonna be a little bit different than my usual vlog, or I mean, that's usually what I do, our vlogs, or like styling content. Today is going to be a Q&A, but it's a very specific type of Q&A. You know, obviously by the title, it is a travel Q&A. And the reason that I really wanted to do a video like this is because, well, if you already follow my channel, you know that Tyler and I love to travel. We haven't traveled as much as we have in the past because we were trying to get everything going with like our home and, you know, buying the house and all that stuff. So everything kind of slowed down for us as far as travel. But me and Tyler love to travel. We love doing it. It's one of our favorite things. We usually have, I would say, between 3 and 4 trips planned every year, even if it's something super simple, even if it's to another state, just to Puerto Rico. Like, we always have things lined up because it's just something that we love to do. Specifically Europe, when we travel, I will get questions on Instagram, on YouTube, pretty much anywhere, of people asking like, how do you go about booking your trips? How do you guys pick where you want to go? If you're new and you're just stumbling across this video because you're searching how to book your travel to Europe or looking for tips, I'm hoping that this helps you. So I'm going to answer the questions I had put on the community tab for you guys to ask me questions, any of the questions that you guys are curious about. And I would go in to as much detail as possible to help you guys in any way that I can. We're actually leaving in about 2 weeks to Europe. And that's kind of what sparked the idea of doing the video, because people were already asking when I had mentioned it in my vlog, like, oh guys, we ended up booking the trip to Europe. People started asking questions about like, how, like, can you kind of talk about the way that you guys go about it? I have a water here because I already know every single time I do videos that are talking a lot, my voice box like actually literally hurts. This video is probably going to be kind of long, not gonna lie, because this intro is already almost 3 minutes. So let's just get into it. I'm gonna go through all the questions and then we will, you know, I'll talk about anything else that I have. As far as the way that we book travel, I'm gonna actually talk about the way that we go about it, and then I'll go into the questions that are here. Every single time Tyler and I want to book travel, regardless of where we're going, it could be a state, a city in Florida, it could be Africa, wherever it is. The biggest thing, and I know that this comes off as such a dumb response or a very like, well, obviously, like, but no. You guys have to research the place that you are thinking about traveling, because there is more to a destination or a place or a country than just the popular resort that everyone is staying at. And one thing that I think about a lot is when Tyler and I went to Tulum, we went in 2020 before like the blow up of Tulum. I think Tulum started to like really blow up more towards the end of 2020 and really throughout 2021, because it was one of the only places that was allowing travel. When we did Tulum, and when we do really anywhere, we try avoiding the very touristy spots where obviously there's gonna be tourist attractions or things that you want to see. For example, when we went to Amsterdam the first time, we knew that we really wanted to go to the Anne Frank house. So that's obviously very touristy. We did that, but aside from that, we just kind of go with it. With Tulum, everybody stays kind of on the strip of Tulum Beach, and it's beautiful. It's super beautiful, and Tulum is a jungle. That is what Tulum is. There's mountains, there's lots of trees, and beach. Like, that's pretty much what it is. And Tyler and I decided we wanted to stay away from there. So we booked this tiny little hotel, I think on Expedia, that was so cheap. I think it was like $100 a night. We were the only people in the entire hotel. There was no one else in the hotel. They had like a little older lady, this older little Mexican woman, making us refried beans for breakfast every morning, grabbing eggs from their chicken coop. Like, it was the best experience, and it was so quiet and peaceful. And we ended up doing Taboo in Tulum, which is a really popular like beach club thing. We ended up going just for dinner. We didn't go for like the beach club because a lot of it was closed due to the pandemic. Aside from that, like, a lot of people do those places to do those beach clubs. Rosa Negra, Tulum, Taboo, Ziggy's, like all of those places. And Tyler and I, like, if there's 1 or 2 days that we want to check something specific out, we will kind of carve time out for it. But other than that, we want the most authentic experience that we can get. We're not going to these really crazy resorts, and we just don't. That's just not how we like to travel. We ended up getting like dollar tacos on the side of the street a couple nights. We ended up meeting like an owner who was a taxi driver, and he took us to his restaurant. It was like literally in the middle of nowhere, and it was incredible. They got us free shots. They brought us sal de gusano. Like, it was such an incredible experience and such an authentic experience because we avoided these really, really touristy hotspots. And again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to go and kind of see what the hype is about, but try avoiding it. Like, explore more, see more of what there is out there than just what you see on Instagram. There's so much more to these countries and cities than what you see on people's TikToks and Instagram. So anytime that Tyler and I are choosing a place to travel to, it can just be an idea. Like, it'll just be a random, hey, what if we go to Peru? Let's just say. We will then become almost like obsessed with researching this specific country. And I'm talking, we are watching YouTube videos, we are watching travel vlogs, we're going on Instagram hashtags, we're Googling, we're going on Pinterest. We're going everywhere to one thing that you need to do is make sure you know the cuisine. Do not go to a country and be like, I don't want to eat anything here. You should have thought about that before you booked your travel to go to that country. Tyler and I really, really wanted to go to Prague. This was like 3 years ago. We wanted to go to the Czech Republic. They have the most beautiful architecture. That was gonna be one of the stops that we made on our trip that year. Then we looked up to see what their dish was. They eat a lot of pork, like in Germany. They eat lots of pork, and their like dish is pork knuckle. I don't eat that. I don't wanna eat that. So we were like, okay, maybe we should choose a different location. I still do want to go to Prague, but I wouldn't do like a long trip there. Maybe like a day or two to just like explore. You have to be able and willing to adjust to these places that you're going to. Like, you just have to. So if it's somewhere that you're like, I don't like Mexican food, like, just don't go. I feel like people don't ever think about that stuff. And I mean, in my opinion, when I travel, I live to eat. I want to try all the food, all the cuisines. I want to try what they're known for, their national dishes. I want it all. So if it's something that I'm just like, ooh, I'm not really sure about that, I'm not gonna go. First question I got was, does weather play a factor in planning travel? This person asked a couple different questions, so I'll answer that question first. Yes, it does, because we know ourselves, and I feel like, again, you have to be very realistic, because there is nothing worse than going somewhere and complaining about the place that you went the entire time. I am not a fan of the heat. I hate the heat. I don't know how I live in Florida, but I hate the heat. In my opinion, tropical destinations do not appeal to me. I mean, you guys know, you guys see my travel whenever we go. Very rarely do I go to tropical destinations. Like, obviously I go to Puerto Rico because that's where my family is from. I go to Puerto Rico, cool. We've gone to Aruba. We've done Mexico a couple of times. I don't like the beach. I've talked about that before on my channel. I'm just not a beach person. And because I live in Florida and this is a very tropical climate, the pull of someone who might live in Washington, for example, where it's more gloomy, it rains a lot, it's colder, they don't really have like these beautiful beaches. I can understand why someone would want to leave that climate to come to somewhere more tropical, or go to Cabo or Dominican Republic. Like, I can see why that would be a pull, but because this is what I'm around 365 days a year, I like to go places that are more for exploration. I want to go places that have a lot of buildings that I can walk. I hate going places where I need a car. Hate it. I want to walk with transportation, hop on a train. Like, that's the type of travel that Tyler and I like to do. Very rarely do we do like vacation type where we're just like lounging on a beach, because we don't like to lounge on beaches. Me and Tyler get very bored of that very, very quickly. And we're also not like huge fans of scorching heat like that. It does play a factor. And also with traveling to Europe specifically, I think that a lot of people don't realize that the summers in Europe are nothing like the summers here. Like, they're just not, especially somewhere like Florida. Obviously, there are people from all over that are watching this video, so your climate might be completely different than Florida's, but like summertime in Europe, like when I got married, we got married in Italy in May. May here is already scorching hot. It was in the 60s in Italy. Like, I think the day we got married, it was like 61 degrees. It was beautiful, perfect weather. I loved it, Tyler loved it, everyone was comfortable. But like in Amsterdam, like we were wearing jackets and like boots and things like that in May. So it's like, while the weather doesn't play a factor on if I wanna go or not, it's still something that you have to be very, very mindful of. For example, we're going in, what, 3 weeks, and I'm going to half of my trip is gonna be in cold weather and the other half is gonna be in warm weather. We're gonna be in London and Amsterdam in the beginning. London is a rainy, cold city. Amsterdam is also rainy and cold, especially that time of year. And we've gone to Europe in September before, specifically Amsterdam, and it was raining. We don't care, we don't mind it, but for somebody that's like, oh my God, I wanna go to Amsterdam for the summer, I would not recommend somewhere like Amsterdam if you're trying to like catch a tan or be out in the sun, because it's not gonna happen. Do you prefer to visit certain countries at a specific time of the year or just whenever it's the most affordable? I would say more based on the time of the year, again, because Tyler and I are not, we don't like being in like really intense heat, and a lot of places, especially because we go to Europe usually every year, they don't have AC in a lot of places. Very like, they're old cities. So being comfortable when we sleep is a big thing. I'm not trying to sleep in 100-degree weather when there is no AC. We just like to travel when the weather is more comfortable, especially because in these cities, in these European cities, you are walking a lot. It is very rare that you're in a car unless you're taking like a taxi or something, but you're walking pretty much everywhere. So I don't like to be in terrible, awful, heavy heat if I'm going to be walking somewhere like that. If I'm going somewhere that's super, super hot, throw me in a pool. Like that's the type of vacation that I'm gonna want. But as far as like exploring and traveling, we always know what time frame we like to go to Europe. I don't like to go in the dead of summer, like how it was right now, like June, July, August. I prefer not to do that because I just know how much time you spend outside, and it is extremely hot when it does get hot, and there's no AC anywhere, so it's just this whole thing. So we prefer more to go off season, more because of the weather, not because it's the most affordable really, although it is more expensive in the summertime because that's when Europeans are going on their summer vacations and things like that. What's your science behind packing overseas? I don't really think I have a science behind it really at all, to be honest. How far in advance should you start planning your vacation, and when do you think is the best time to book? So I feel like it really depends on if you only take one vacation a year. Like this is the only vacation that we've taken since we went to Europe last year for our wedding. We haven't gone because our priorities shifted to be about getting into our home. So this is our only time to travel. We already knew we love the fall in Europe. We've gone a couple of times. We've either gone in May or in like the fall right before like Halloween, Thanksgiving time frame, because we just really like that time of the year in Europe specifically. This trip that we're doing, I think planned it like maybe 2 or 3 months ago, decided that we were actually going to do it, and then booked it maybe 3 weeks ago. So I feel like it really depends on if you know for sure, okay, I'm gonna take one trip this year, we're gonna save all of our money, put it towards this trip. I would start planning as early in advance as possible. Research the places that you wanna go to, how the weather is in that specific place for that time of year, and then start looking for your flights. What is different about your budgeting for vacations now since you are both homeowners? How do you budget for vacation plus spending on the vacation? So I don't think that the homeowner thing plays a factor in it, because I mean, you pay to live wherever you are regardless. Obviously like projects and things, like I want to redo a whole bunch of things still in the house, and we just put that on pause because it's like, okay, we can do that when we get back from our trip and start thinking about it that way. As far as budgeting, this is obviously going to be different for every situation, every couple, or if you're single. Tyler and I work a lot with cash. Tyler specifically, because you guys know, or if you don't know, he's a tattoo artist. He owns a tattoo shop, so he either gets paid through apps like Square or Zelle or Cash App, or people will pay him cash. We have a jar, and that jar is where all of our cash goes. It can be money that we find in the chairs, it could be change that we find in the car, it could be we broke a 20 and all the singles go into that jar. That is usually like, okay, we're gonna just throw all of our money in there, keep stacking it, and then right before we go on vacation, we're going to either deposit it or we're gonna do the transfer at the airport, which that's another thing we need to talk about, which I'll talk about that later. Like switch your money over from dollar to euro or wherever it is that you're going. And I know that a lot of people don't work with cash. A lot of people just get like direct deposits from their work. I personally, I think it also depends on how you are and how you work with your money. Tyler and I, because I've always also freelancing, doing makeup, doing hair, I've worked with a lot of cash as well, and we just always use our cash as our like fun money or our play money or our vacation money, and then whatever we make that gets directly deposited into our account, that's what we use for mortgage, grocery shopping, things like that. So for me specifically, right now I'm not really making money as far as cash wise. Everything is kind of like electronic, like a direct deposit type thing. So I'll just use this for an example because this is what I'm doing. Between now and the time that we leave to Europe, I have a couple of different payouts from different things. It could be affiliations, Amazon storefront, when I get paid from YouTube, getting paid from Like to Know It, sponsorships. All those things I'm getting paid at a specific time frame right before we leave. So I am taking all of that money, and that is going to be kind of like the fun money because we have already booked the hotels, the flight. We still have one flight and one hotel left to book. But aside from that, everything is already paid. So now whatever money we accrue is going to be for eating, coffees, drinks, dinners, if we want to do a boat tour or little things like that. Like if we go to I think we're going to go to like a beach club, money will go towards that. So there are some people that it's like if they see their money in their account, they automatically want to spend it, which whatever, no judgment. I don't care how you use your money, what you do with your money. If you're one of those people, I would recommend take your money. Let's say you get paid every Friday, take $100 out of your paycheck or $50, however much you can afford at that time. Take it out of your account, put it in an envelope and leave it in your closet. You'll never think to grab it. All your money is usually on your debit card or your credit card if you use that anyway. I would take it out because if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. If you don't realize while you're out in the stores that you have money in an envelope back at home, there's nothing you can do about it anyway because you don't have it. If you're not someone like that, then I would say just put it into a different account. Like Tyler and I, we have our own individual bank accounts, and then we have a shared bank account that sometimes I'll put money in, he'll put money in. We kind of just throw in there. We used to use it as our savings right before we bought the house. We obviously used all that money towards the house, but we've done it in the past where when we were saving for our wedding, we knew, okay, we're gonna need about $1,000 for flights, and we would just start throwing money into that account. Once we got about to like $3,000, and this was a year putting money into this account, once we got to about the $3,000 mark, we said, okay, let's start booking our flights. Let's start looking at hotels. Let's start buying this. Let's start buying that. So I think just being very honest with yourself about how you are with your money, because if you're somebody that if you see money in your bank account, you're gonna spend it, I don't recommend putting money into a bank account for budgeting for a trip because you're gonna end up spending it. Like, you're gonna spend it. So if you're somebody that works with cash, use only your cash and save that for your trip. If you're somebody that doesn't work with cash, but you can go to the bank and pull out $100 and put it in an envelope, I would recommend doing that. So that's kind of what we do. We don't necessarily set a budget as far as like, okay, we need $1,000 for this trip, and not at all to say that like we don't need a budget. Everybody needs a budget. I don't care how much money you make, you need to have a budget if you're gonna travel comfortably. We just more so like, I think because we know the way that we are when we travel, we don't sit there and think like, okay, we need $7,000 for this or $400 for that. We kind of just save up all the money that we're making, and then when we go on our trip, we're like, all right, this is how much we got to spend. Let's see what we're gonna do with that. That was a really long answer, I'm sorry. How do you plan your day-to-day activities? Where do you find the cool spots and the yummy food? So this is something that Tyler and I were actually talking about the other day, because me and Tyler do not go anywhere with itineraries. I hate traveling with people that have every single day planned, every hour to the hour planned with an activity. I don't like traveling like I had mentioned before. There's obviously going to be things that you want to see in these specific places, whether it's you're coming to Orlando and you know you want to go to Disney World on a Thursday. Cool. There's things like that as well. Like, we're probably going to end up doing things just like that. But Tyler and I, when it comes to like eating or food or just like things like that, we don't look up really anything. I'll look up like restaurants because I'll be like, oh, I want to try a coffee from here, or oh, I want to get a croissant from there. But as far as like activities, we are so go with the flow, and that might drive people that are very, very organized insane. But like this time that we're going to Europe, we've been to Amsterdam. This is gonna be our 4th time in Amsterdam. We love Amsterdam. You guys know I talk about it all the time. Our dream is to have a home in Amsterdam. We love this city so much. We've been enough times that we've done everything that we really wanted to do tourist-wise. We've done the Anne Frank house. We've done boat ride on the canal. We've gone to the tulip fields. Everything that we wanted to do, we've done. So this time that we travel, I'm so excited. Is just gonna walk around, see, oh, let's have breakfast here. How about we have lunch? Oh, let's come back here for lunch. We are so go with the flow. And like I said, I'm sure that probably drives some people insane, but I don't need every single day booked to the hour. I cannot do that. It's not relaxing. It's not fun. we don't ever really plan where we're gonna eat, unless of course, like I said, like there's a place in London that I wanna go to because they have cruffins. I know whenever there's gonna be a time frame in London that I wanna go to Piccadilly's and I wanna get a cruffin. But my whole trip doesn't have to revolve around going to Piccadilly's to get a cruffin. At some point, I'm just gonna be like, hey, I really wanna go to Piccadilly's. Can we like go there after we leave this museum? And we'll just go. That could, again, drive people insane because they need structure to their trips. We're just not like that. So if there's somewhere super specific that we wanna eat, let's say I found somewhere on TikTok or Pinterest, I'll just save it, and then while we're there, I'll be like, oh, I just remembered I have this place that I wanna go to eat dinner to. So whenever we go to eat dinner, let's just look how far this is and we'll jump on a train or whatever. That's just how we go about it. As far as like cool spots, it's pretty rare that I go to very hyped up places, usually because everyone is posting about the same spots and I like to try more local things. I like to try places that aren't with lines down the street. Like, I don't like doing that. So it's literally, we will just walk by a place, and I don't think we've ever made a reservation when we're in Europe. I don't think we've ever planned like food places by the day. We just walk by and we'll be like, wow, they serve steak, let's go in there. What are your go-to apps for the best travel price? And how do you book train rides and commuter buses when you're traveling in Europe? Are there things you do to prepare for a Europe trip that are different than national flights? So as far as preparing, this is something very important. One, the preparation as far as like being here versus going somewhere in, you know, another country. Be sure to change your money. Exchange your money. With the exchange rates and how much they charge you to change your money when you're actually there, it is robbery when you do it. So you can go to your bank, you can do it at the airport, take your cash, or you can take your however, and just say, I wanna take out €1,000. And that's gonna be your money when you're in Europe. Obviously, when you're here, or a lot of places that use the dollar, it's simple. You're using your debit card nonstop. You can also use your debit card and your credit cards over there. I just would only use my American Express because I don't get charged international fees. But other than that, we just use cash. We'll just use our cash, we'll take out euro, we use that euro, and if we have to go to the ATM, we'll do that. But I highly recommend taking money out before you go and exchanging your money here. It's cheaper, it works out better that way. If you forget and you end up having to exchange your money there, do it in the airport. Do it in the airport before you even leave, because you're gonna get charged fees everywhere to take money out or exchange your money. So that is, I would say, the most important part. And then as far as our apps, we don't really use apps. When we book our travel, we go through Google Flights. If you just literally go open your browser and type Google Flights, you can click on, let's say you're looking at an August trip. Click on August 1st and all of the days will pop up with all of the prices on how much it is to travel during those days. So we'll usually do that. If you have like a credit card with a specific airline, like there's JetBlue credit cards, or there's like Delta credit cards, or if you have lots of points through a specific airline, obviously do that first. Like, I would recommend doing that first. I don't have a lot of points with any of my airline like perks or anything. So I would recommend doing that first, using your perks. If you have miles, like if you accrue travel miles through any of your credit cards, like I said, the American Express does that. I have a Capital One credit card that does that. And I also have a Hilton American Express, that all of those will give you points. I will go through those first, see, okay, how much money do I have in points that I can book for travel? If it's enough, I'll do that. If not, then I'll just go through Google Flights, book it that way. After I do the Google Flights thing, we'll see, okay, the cheapest flight is actually through JetBlue. Then you can just go directly through JetBlue and do it. But I always, always, always look through Google Flights first. If I'm going somewhere, Cancun, most of the time I'll go through Expedia and see if there's like a bundle that they do, because sometimes they will do travel and hotel in one price. Sometimes you can get a really good deal, sometimes you can't. Those are like the types of explorations I do. I usually always book through Expedia for hotels. I know a lot of people do booking.com as well. I've never done it, but I know that's a popular one. And Google Flights, and that's it. That's how we book. Once we actually get to Europe and you're booking your flights in between or your train stations in between, we'll do EasyJet, we'll do Air France, depending on whatever place it is that we're going to. And then as far as train rides, I've never done a train ride to another country. I would love to do that. We were thinking about doing that for last time that we went. We ended up just doing flights. I'm not sure how to go about it. I would just Google like booking flights to, or booking train from London to Paris. I know there's obviously train stations that you can do it at as well, but I would always just recommend doing it in advance, because you never know if the train is gonna be sold out. When we're in Amsterdam and London specifically because of the tube, and I can't remember what the train is called in Amsterdam. We just get them right there. Like you can buy them like on the side of the street, go in there, book if you want a one-way or if you want like a week's worth, and then you just pay for it and you can just hop on and off the train as you need to. Do you book hotel and plane tickets at once or separate? If so, how far after? We always book our flights first. Once we confirm the flights, we will start looking and booking hotels. So we're not like super rushy. I don't know if you guys can tell, me and Tyler are extremely laid back when it comes to stuff like this. I don't like being stressed about travel. I don't travel like that. That's just not my way of doing it. I don't get super anxious. Like I said, we have not one plan going into this trip. I know what cities I'm going to. That's all I know. I don't know where I'm eating. I don't know where I'm getting coffee. I don't know where I'm getting dessert, except for Renee's in Amsterdam, because that's our favorite. So as far as places that I've stayed in London, I've always done Airbnbs. I am not pro Airbnb now. This was years ago, like 5 years ago that we went and we stayed in Airbnb. Actually twice. 2 times that we've gone to London and we've stayed in Airbnb. Both times that we stayed in London, we did Airbnb. I had no issues with it. I loved it. We had great experiences and we just stayed in the main city. Very, very easy travel-wise to get around the cities because you can just take the tube. Very, very easy to navigate. It's extremely clean. Amazing. The tube is amazing, or just walking. We walk a lot when we go to Europe. So as far as London for like what you're packing, it's going to be very cold. It's going to be cold. We went in October and it was like 40, 50 degree weather. I would say plan for that. Rain boots or shoes that are going to be good for the rain. Do not bring any flip-flops, sandals, uncomfortable shoes, comfy sneakers, a coat, 100% a coat, maybe a hat. I remember I think we went in May one year and it was so cold. I ended up buying like one of those London beanies, which I loved it. I was like so happy about it, but we were cold. Like it was really, really cold. If you like look up typical weather in London in November, you can look through there and it'll kind of tell you like what you're getting yourself into. Attractions, I would 100% go to Harrods. I know that might not be somewhere that everybody wants to go, but Harrods is basically like, think of the Macy's in New York for London. So it is huge and beautiful and unique. I'm gonna go in there and probably get an ornament. I have 2 ornaments that I got I think last time we went. And it is just the cutest store. You can get lunch in there. I love Harrods. Again, that might not be somewhere that everybody would go, but I love Harrods. I also recommend Covent Garden. Covent Garden, Camden Market. Oh my God, I can't wait. If we have time to go to Camden Market again, I would love to. It's like a massive flea market type thing with all different types of food vendors. You can go underground and there's like jewelry. It is so cool. So definitely Camden Market, Covent Garden, Harrods, because I like it. I just think it's cute. We went to the museum. We went to like a couple museums that we just like walked right into. Food wise, I would say maybe like tea time. We didn't do it, but the food it's English. So it's like, it's not gonna be anything that's like out of this world. Like if you would go to Italy, how you're having like the specific type of cuisine. Maybe do like English breakfast where they give you like the beans. It's like a huge breakfast, and somewhere for tea time. How do you get by in countries with a language barrier? So I think it is extremely important to at least teach yourself a couple words. Like, it is irritating as hell when I see people irritated with the people in the country because they don't speak English to them. 1, that's rude. 2, that's so American. It is so American to go to Mexico and be mad that the Mexicans aren't speaking English to you. First of all, it's rude. 1, it's extremely rude. 2, like, educate yourself. Just educate yourself. So like I'll just use Amsterdam, for example. A lot of people in Amsterdam, a lot of people in Europe know English. They do. Not everyone, but a lot of people do. In Amsterdam, a lot of people speak English, but at least learn how to say hello, thank you, please, excuse me, goodbye. Like little things like that at least shows that you're trying. I feel like if you at least show like I don't really know how to speak the language, but I'm gonna try to at least say hello, greet you in that country. A lot of the times in Amsterdam, they will say, do you need Dutch or English? And if you say English, they'll just start speaking to you in English. I know a couple of words. I know hello, goodbye, thank you. I know cheers because I have it tattooed right here. Same thing in Italy. The Italian is very close to Spanish, but it is not the same. It is so different. It's similar, but it is not the same. Just the couple of words to show that you're not being this ignorant American. Just hello, goodbye, thank you, please. Very, very simple. Hotels are Airbnbs, or does it depend on the city? I think that it depends on the city, but like I said before, I just am not a fan of, one, how expensive Airbnbs have gotten with, like, you have to do so much work. Like, you need to clean up, you have to strip the beds, you have to make sure there's no dishes in the sink, you get charged for this fee, charged for that fee. I don't understand why there's a cleaning fee for Airbnb. Like, you gotta clean the house anyway. The house has to get cleaned in between each person. Don't understand why there's a fee for that. Where, like, in a hotel, you can check in and drop your bags off if you're early. You can ask for late checkout. You can ask for room service. Your bed gets made every day. Like, there's so many different things for hotels that I am just pro hotel. Have you ever flown first class? If so, what is it like compared to economy? If not, would you ever consider it? What times do you guys prefer to travel? Does it depend on the destination? So we've never flown first class. We were gonna fly first class for our wedding. We were like, if we're gonna do it, like, let's do it for our wedding. But when we went to upgrade our seats, they did not have any first class seats available. A lot of the times, and I'm only gonna speak on Europe, traveling to Europe, you still get a meal. You get dinner and you get breakfast on the flight. Yeah, depending on when you fly, which most of the time the big window is you're gonna have dinner and breakfast, or lunch and dinner, or whatever. You get unlimited wine. Yeah, unlimited wine and I think beer on the flight, and that's included already. Like, that's not because you upgraded, it's your regular economy flight. Different airlines are gonna be different. Like, I flew Virgin Atlantic to London once, and that was the best experience I've ever had, and I did not fly first class. Like, you had like actual, like, almost beds. You had little cubbies. The food was incredible. It was an amazing experience. So I would definitely recommend flying Delta or Virgin Atlantic if you can. But any other airline that you do, we've done Norwegian. This year we're doing British Airways. You're always gonna get a meal right before evening time when you're gonna go to sleep, and when you're landing in the morning, which goes into what time we prefer to travel. So again, only speaking on Europe because it's further than like going to like somewhere like Mexico or Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic or the Caribbean, anything like that. We always prefer traveling overnight, like going to Europe. It's very easy to fly from here to London. It's a very short, I think it's like an 8.5-hour flight. So if you leave at night, you land in the morning. So it's perfect because you're usually gonna get sleepy on the flight. Not saying that you're gonna have the best sleep, but you're gonna be sleepy. So we will usually book our travel between like 7 o'clock at night, or like 7 to 10. Those are like our ideal times to leave here to start flying there. Once we're on the flight, they give you dinner. It's usually like a menu that you can choose from, and it's actually pretty decent. It's not like 5-star restaurant, but the food is not bad for being like airplane food. You can get like pasta, you can get rice and chicken, you can get lots of different things. You have obviously your movies and all that stuff. They bring you wine if you want that. They'll turn off all the cabin lights, and then we go to sleep, and usually I don't wake up until they're serving breakfast, and then we'll land in London at 10 a.m. Like, it's such a perfect situation. Our flight this year, I think we're leaving at 8 p.m. and we land in London at 10:30 a.m. So we'll probably have breakfast around like 9, and then by the time we get there, it's like, okay, here we are. When in advance do you book your trips, and can we get a what's in my travel bag video on what you're planning to take? Yes, I'm going to do a video of what I'm taking, and we don't really book as like in advance based on like time frame. It's just once we decide, we start looking, we see what the flights are looking like, and then once we're ready, we book it. And I know that might not be helpful, but that's just, like I said, we're very, very, very low maintenance when it comes to travel, so it's not like this crazy preparation that we take when we're gonna book the flights. Do you get anxiety when flying? If so, how do you control it? I wanna travel with my husband, but have such a fear of flying. I don't really. I have in the past, but I don't know. I don't anymore. I would just say take NyQuil and knock out on the plane. That's what I would say. Countries or cities that you visited that you think are worth visiting. When saving for vacations, do you do a separate account specifically for that? So I mentioned the whole situation of the saving and where we put our money when we're gonna travel. Countries and cities that we visited that I think are worth visiting. Amsterdam, you guys already know. I love London. I definitely recommend Italy. I loved Barcelona as well. I loved Aruba, honestly. Beautiful little island. I feel like we've had a really good experience everywhere that we've traveled, even within the United States. Like, I loved Colorado. We did go to Keystone, which is like a snowboarding, skiing city. It was beautiful, but you have to be careful with altitude sickness. It is no joke, you guys. I did not think that it was gonna be as intense as it was. I ended up fainting one of the nights. I was walking to the bedroom and I passed out, hit my head on the door. Like, it's intense. So I still recommend Colorado. I loved it. I loved Keystone, but I would just like be wary of that. What do you do for animal care? I have 2 cats and I know how hard it can be to move them from their space. It is very hard, but actually the cats are easier than the dog. We're actually going to have Tyler's business partner who lives like up the street from us. He has dogs and he has a cat, so he's going to watch the dogs and he's gonna come and check in on the cats. And the cats, we prefer to just keep them here at home. We've had like Tyler's parents stay with them before, family come and check in on them. It's usually just family or friends. Going on a 10-day trip to Ireland and staying in multiple hotels, I would love to go to Ireland. Are packing cubes really worth it? I have no idea because I don't use packing cubes. I'm sure they are worth it. I've heard so many good things about packing cubes. I've just never used them, so I don't know how to recommend them. Please state what areas require a car rental, if any. Really, none of them. All these cities are very walkable. I feel like if you're going to the countryside, then you might need a car, but Amsterdam is a major city. London is a major city. All these places you can get by on like train and foot. Just in general, how to book, like how to choose the right location, the right area. I remember my first trip I booked to Cali, I had no idea what the good and bad areas were. So I ended up in a freaking gangster dump of an area with homeless and prostitution. So knowing what to do, what not to do when booking. And again, I don't want to be repetitive, but you have to research. You just have to do your research, see what areas are good to stay in, see what areas are bad to stay in. And I feel like in major cities like London and Amsterdam and Paris and things like that, like because there's so many tourists, you're usually pretty good. In Amsterdam, for example, Amsterdam is an extremely safe place. Over there, prostitution is legal, most drugs are legal, they don't have guns, barely see police officers. I would say if you're somebody that's like super sensitive or super like offended by things like that, I wouldn't recommend even going to a city like Amsterdam in general, because not saying that you have to do those things when you're there, but it's everywhere. Like, it's very out in the open. There are coffee shops to buy weed and shrooms and things like that everywhere. The red light district, I would say, like in a place like that, like if you're somebody that's really offended by something like that, don't stay in the red light district. I personally have never stayed in the red light district because it's just not an area of interest to me. Like, I've been in there many times. Like I said, this is gonna be our 4th time going. It doesn't bother me because it's none of my business. I don't care. But I wouldn't want to stay in the red light district because it's a very, very tourist heavy area, because everyone in the world is like, oh my God, the red light district where you can see the women in the glass window. Like, it's very much like that. So like, I would say things like that, but it's just all about doing your research. Like, you have to look it up where you can walk everywhere, things like that. Do you take a train, ferries between cities? How does that work? Like I said, I never have, so I can't speak on that because I genuinely have no idea. Dream place you want to visit and why? How much do you need to travel without adding up the plane ticket? Will you ever go to South America, like Brazil, Bolivia, Peru, Chile? Yes, I would love to go to South America. I've never been. I would love to go to Colombia. I'd love to go to Brazil. There's so many places in South America that I would love to go to. My dream place, I've always wanted to go to Morocco, Egypt. I really want to explore Africa really, really, really bad. In Europe, I want to go to Iceland. I would love to go to Switzerland. I was actually supposed to go to Switzerland years ago and it ended up not working out. I want to go to Copenhagen so bad. We were supposed to go last year, but ended up switching our minds. I'd love to go to Australia. There's so many places I want to go. How much do you need to travel without adding up the plane ticket? I think that's subjective. I think that depends on the city you're going to. It depends on if you're going to be in a touristy area. Amsterdam is a pretty expensive city, but right now, like with the dollar, you have to check the exchange rate. That's another thing you should do. Check the exchange rates, see how much the dollar is worth, to see like, okay, when I get to Europe, I'm only gonna have half of this because the exchange rate. In Amsterdam, I've done Airbnb and I've done hotel. I preferred the Airbnb because it was a really cool location and the host was really cool. It was this older lady and she was like, oh, if you guys want to buy anything, I'll tell you where to go so you don't get like bad stuff. We have bikes for you if you guys want to take the bicycles. And she was really cool and we just loved the area. It gave us a really authentic experience. I've also stayed in the Hard Rock in Amsterdam, which was nice, but I just prefer to be more like in the thick of it. Like, I don't know, like I'm not a fancy hotel type of girl because I like an authentic experience. I don't like it all like fluffy. As far as London, I stayed in the city, in the Airbnbs, loved it. Italy, I've done Airbnb and I've done hotel. I think it really just depends on what type of experience it is that you want. Average amount spent on food and drinks and activities going out in the country. Again, it depends on where you are. Like I said, Amsterdam is a pretty expensive city, but I'm also like, I don't care for like really fancy things when I'm on vacation. Like unless I'm going for like an anniversary and let's say me and Tyler want to go out to dinner to celebrate our anniversary, we'll probably go to a fancy place, but like it's very much for us, like we'll just be walking and just choose right there. Like, let's eat here. Or, oh, that coffee shop is cool. Let's get breakfast there. I don't know, maybe I'm not like the best person to answer that type of question because I just don't care for that type of experience when I'm in Europe. All right, you guys, that is everything. My biggest tips, look at the weather, learn a little bit of the language, just a couple words to get by, exchange your money, and wear comfortable shoes. Those are like my 4 biggest tips. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully I was able to answer everything that you guys might want to know. If there's anything that I didn't answer, maybe I'll do a part 2, maybe when like we get back or something. Stay tuned for my packing video. It is coming soon of what I'm going to bring and what I'm going to wear and things like that. But I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video.